Hey everybody, this is Brad Dyke reaching out to you just to give you a quick review on something that I think is going to be really important within a few years, and that is the nature of SSD drives and their true lifespans. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, in reality, you see, as we use SSD drives and or any other memory style devices, such as this drive here, there are a couple of indicative natures about SSD drives that you have to understand. One is heat. Now, if you say you would like to take this apart, take the circuit card out, and you were to adapt it with heat sinks, you're not doing that to improve the ability or performance of the drive. As you can see, here is a heat sink here for this SSD style device, which is a PCIe style IO Fusion drive card for 160 gigs. But they knew a couple of things, and it's kind of important, and it is that heat affects the longevity of SSD devices. So when you really run an SSD drive fairly hard and heavy, like you're doing a lot of diagnostics, the continual state of doing that affects the nature of the SSD drive. Now, here, let me give you a better example. Now, here I have what we call an enterprise level SSD cache buffer drive. It's 100 gigs, and the SSD inside this unit is embedded in what we call an aluminum block set. Now, here you can see the interface looks like a traditional SSD drive, but if you look at the nature of the housing, it's embedded in an aluminum heat shield. Basically, is what you're looking at is a giant heat shield. And this particular cache drive, which I use in a Dell 720XD chassis, is a cache buffer. Now, that's the thing. Cache buffering with SSD drives mean in a nutshell that it's consistently and constantly writing cycles. It's the high-end cache buffer for your machine, and it basically provides you the ability to write at the speed of SSD temporarily for the capacity of the amount of storage capacity you have here, such as 160 gigs here or 100 gigs on that drive. So for most write cycles, that's great, and you see the performance. But over time, you just watch it drop on your scale, and it's related to heat. So one thing that's possible to be done is you could just leave it alone. Use it for the 3 or 5 year window, but the heat will eventually cause the SSD drive to fail. The other part about the SSD drives that we all know and understand is that there are only so many times it can write and read to the RAM before the degradation sets in and it fails. Now, there's some buffering in there, i.e. there's extra memory to help relocate these sectors that possibly may go bad on the SSD, but that's absolutely no guarantee because circuits don't fail like hard drives do. They fail. You might be able to still get some data off of a spinning disk because it's mechanical, but with these devices, not the case. So what can you do about it? Well, actually not too much. You can just leave it alone, pair it up with another one, and run it in RAID 1, RAID 1.0, or known as RAID 10. And they better not be the same make and model that you bought the same day. You should spare them out. Get a 160 gig drive from one location, get another 160 gig drive from another. Then you can pair them up as a RAID 1 for the lesser value between the two. And their manufacturing windows are of different time frames. Now, here we go again. We're going back to the old days of RAID, when you bought inexpensive disks and you had to process them and check their manufacturing dates. And in doing so, you could properly swap the drives in effectively so that your failure rates would only occur on a single drive failure rate. Then NetApp and EMC and all the companies got smart, and they started rotating the serial numbers of the production sales and doing it for you. But inevitably, it's the same old problem that we see. Now, is there anything you can do to stretch the heat factor out? Yes, there is. Let me show you what it is. And here is what it is. A heatsink. That's right. Placing heat sinks to give the microchips themselves, the SSD capacity chips, the ability to dissipate heat, to stretch it out. You're not actually fanning away heat. And by the way, if you are going to do it, you want to do it on the nature of the placement of the card so that gravity, as in below and above, can perpetuate the exchange of heat. But you're not actually getting the ability to stretch the life of the SSD as much as you're going to have the ability of prolonging the downfall related to heat usage. So if you're using a card for 27 days and it's processing database files or metadata stores and so on, and your cache card, in this case an SSD drive, has been working quite heavily and the heat is starting to build up, having the extra heatsink on there can stretch that time out. So that is what we call a dissipation effect mechanism that will give you a longer cycle before you really have to maybe stop and cool the system down and let the SSD drives kind of lax up and get the temperature back under control. That's really about the only thing you can do for that. Now, the problem with these guys is they're 2.5-inch drive assemblies. And as you can see here, I took it out. There is no SSD drive in here. It's instead sitting inside an Isilon NL400 chassis, and it's directly connected to an edge board, and it's posting. But I have heat sinks on that board like this because there's nothing inhibiting me the ability of having heat sinks on it, unlike having it inside such a plastic shell as this. But in there, I have one chip for memory, 160 gigs, and one chip controller, and I put two heat sinks to help them have some flexibility in dissipating that heat. And that is very, very, very important if you want to keep that sustained bandwidth on your transfer rates. These are the things that actually do affect you as you're trying to move lots of data from one place to another. They're simple tricks. They're tricks that old guys like me use to just squeeze out that little extra long life effect of moving huge amounts of data and not having your SSD start to perform poorly over the span of several hours of doing that work. And with that, I'm going to let you guys go. I hope this was insightful. Don't destroy the warranty on your drives by taking them out of the shells. I did that because, number one, this was a small SSD drive. It cost me like $15. And I took it out of the shell because it had to work in a certain way on the Isilon that had its own version of a teardown SSD drive when it was once an EMC system. That was removed, and I put something bigger in there to get it to a better place. And in this case, it was true NAS. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this video. Like it if you like. Don't like it if you don't like. Just trying to help out and get you guys to a better place. Take care.